Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'll call our regular public council meeting for Monday, April 3rd, 2023, here in the beautiful town of Thor Bay to order. First item of business, motion to appoint acting town clerk. Councilor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. In the absence of the Chief Administrative Officer, Town Clerk, for the public council meeting of Monday, April 3rd, 2023, that the Director of Corporate Services, Norm Snellgrove, be appointed as acting town clerk. Any operational matters are to be referred to the appropriate department director. So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. New business. Councilor Tapper?
Pass.
Councilor Pollard?
Pass.
Councilor Appleby?
Thank you, and FCM scholarships.
Right. Councilor Goss? All right, and I got a thanks. And congrats. Okay, any, do you want to get on the first Q&A? You're good? All right, okay, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please?
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried. Okay, next item, could I get a motion to adopt the regular public council minutes of March 21st, 2023, please?
So moved.
Moved and seconded, any errors or omissions?
If I can make a comment about one item in here. Under the remote policy motion, it says that it was agreed that it was better to be in person. I'm just looking for the piece in here now. Oh, here it is. I'm looking at it now. In-person attendance to meetings is preferred and ensures accountability of council. Just to that point, I would like to have a note on that, I'm not sure how to state it, but
Was that part of a motion?
no, it's a note about the motion in the minutes, and I just wanted to have something on record before we adopt them, that I have concern with that statement.
But the statement was made, right? So it's part of the record, so it's not,
Well, can I have it on the record then, that I have a concern with that one statement in there?
I'm not sure you need a motion of council to add that.
Do you need a
Yeah, to adopt, to change the minutes of a prior meeting at this juncture when we're adopting them. In order to make an edit to the minutes as they are presented, we need a motion of council.
Okay, well then, I won't ask for a motion, I'll just note it here in the chamber that I have concern with that, and that's fine.
Okay,
Thanks, Mayor.
all right, thank you. All right, any other comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Have a look at your, what is this thing called? Conflict of interest considerations. There's one item on here. It's a Crown Land acquisition referral north of 126 Quigley Lane. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
That border directly back on me,
right against your property?
or against,
Okay, all right, so we'll have to deal with that when it comes up. All right. Okay. Proclamations, presentations, Q&A. Proclamation for Green Shirt Day. Councilor Appleby.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, the proclamation for Green Shirt Day. Whereas after the devastating events of the Humboldt Broncos bus crash that took the lives of 16 passengers, Humboldt Broncos defenseman Logan Boulay succumbed to his injuries April 7th. And whereas Logan's parents, Bernadine and Toby Boulay, offered to donate his organs so that 6 lives could live on. How do you know Mahaki, Mom? Whereas Logan has registered as an organ donor after being inspired by his coach and mentor, Rick Suggett, who was also an organ donor and saved 6 lives when he passed in 2017. And whereas news spread of the organ donation by this young hockey player, it is estimated that almost 150,000 people registered to become organ donors in the days and weeks that followed. To date, this is the largest number of Canadians registering to become organ donors in Canadian history due to one event. And whereas Green Shirt Day was created to honor, remember, and recognize all the victims and families of the fatal crash and to continue Logan's legacy by inspiring Canadians to talk to their families and register as organ donors.
Therefore, I, Craig Scott, Mayor of the Town of Torbay, do hereby proclaim April 7, 2023 Green Shirt Day in Torbay, and I encourage all citizens to wear green, register their decision to become organ and tissue donors, and share their decision with their family. Dated this 3rd day of April, 2023. So moved.
Second,
Comments or questions?
if I could.
Go ahead.
I got 2 kids, both hockey players. Jake just stopped playing hockey, but my daughter will be playing hockey again before the season's finished. No one ever thinks you put your kid on a bus and something as awful as this could happen. You know, if you're coaching or you're a parent or whatever happens. And you know, out of something so horrific, to see something so amazing come out of it is just truly spectacular. So I would encourage as many people as they can to wear a green shirt on April 7th. I know I will. And I just think it's an amazing proclamation, something for us to be a part of. We've got one of the biggest, I think, hockey associations in Northeast Avalon here. It plays out of our arena. This touches a lot of people in our community. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, certainly does. Any other comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right, proclamation for Volunteer Week 2023. Councilor Tepper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. National Volunteer Week Proclamation. Volunteering weaves us together. Whereas 24 million Canadians gave their time through formal or informal types of volunteering, contributing close to 5 billion volunteer hours per year. And whereas volunteers in the town of Torbay mentor our children, support those feeling isolated, beautify our green spaces, and fundraise for our charitable organizations. And whereas volunteers in Torbay have stepped up during the COVID-19 pandemic to support families, friends, neighbors, and strangers, people standing up to systemic racism, and people sharing insights on how to create a more just and equitable society. And whereas the town of Torbay's volunteers are individuals, families, workers, retirees, community members of all ages and backgrounds. And whereas the collective result of the work done by our town's volunteers is that Torbay is a more desirable place to live. And whereas the town, organizations, and community groups in Torbay rely on volunteers.
Now therefore, I, Craig Scott, Mayor of the Town of Torbay, do hereby proclaim April 16, 2020, April 16th to the 22nd, 2023 as National Volunteer Week, and urge my fellow citizens to recognize crucial roles played by volunteers in our community. Signed this 3rd day of April, 2023. So moved.
Second.
Comments?
Just thank you.
I just want to comment, Craig,
Go ahead.
if I could. You know, I think volunteers with this community goes back as long as this community was ever in existence. And volunteers always came out when we needed them, and they still do. And one prime example of that was over the summer months for all our celebrations. It was great success, and with our new venues, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of people came through the community, and volunteers were out front and center, either you know, volunteering at the venues or otherwise. So I think it's very important going forward that we emphasize and ask people to get out in the community and help out as much as they can. I know time is valuable to everybody, but it's enjoyable being a volunteer. Very, very enjoyable
Yeah.
and beneficial.
Well said, and I think I would like to add to that, that we just found out recently that Allied Youth in Newfoundland is going to be ceasing to exist this year. That's going to be a big blow to our town in terms of our youth volunteers for sure. And I'm going to speak to the CAO, and I'm probably going to bring forward a proposal for us to create a youth, some type of youth committee so that we can capture, I don't know if capture is the right word, but to engage these young people that are losing that avenue for AY to be able to volunteer in the community, and that we as the town can probably have some kind of committee structure set up that we can have an opportunity for them to have a structured volunteer opportunities with the town. So just give you a heads up on that's something that I'm planning on, I'm proposing. I'm sure that everybody will be in agreement. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All righty. Q&A, no. Mayor's report, all I had to report. I'm going to report on the birthdays for the month of April. Jordan Cross, Infrastructure and Public Works, April 2nd. Danny Kavanagh, Infrastructure and Public Works, April 7th. Sydney Mills, Torbay History House and Museum, April 8th. Brian Windsor, Brian Windsor. Do we have a Brian Windsor? I thought that was a misspelling. Okay, Infrastructure and Public Works, April 17th. Philip Folke, Infrastructure and Public Works, April 23rd. And Tony Pollard, Councillor, April 29th. Happy birthday, everybody. I hope you have a safe and happy, enjoyable birthday. Okay.
We'll get there.
So
I hope I get there.
well,
5 more days.
I mean, you're used to having birthdays now, ain't you? All righty. Correspondence. There's an update there from Municipal Assessment Agency. Just a memo for information purposes. A letter here from Department of Municipal and Provincial Affairs, Capital Investment Plan approval. That's for our multi-year capital works stuff, Brian?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
No, it's already that, former gas tax.
Gas tax stuff, okay. Canada Community Building Fund,
Yes. Just a rename.
all right. We
Sorry,
got,
that's just reallocation of the additional costs, right?
yeah, okay. The next link, okay, I was gonna say it's not working in my thing, but it's FCM statement on the 2023 federal budget for our information purposes. And the next one is a memo, Councilor Appery's request, FCM Board of Directors. This one, I got an email from the HR committee members earlier, and we're going to defer that one until, we're going to send it back to the HR committee to come forward with the proper motion at the next council meeting.
That's fine. Thanks,
Okay.
Mayor.
All right, thank you. All righty. Committees of council.
Need a motion to defer that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We can if we want, but
Sorry.
it's not, we didn't make a motion, so it's just words on a paper until we put it on to the floor. All right, committees of the whole minutes. March 27th. Okay, I wasn't involved in this at all, so I guess we need a, what?
Sorry, the meeting is centered around the appeal for the cell tower. There's also notes are there, and
Okay.
obviously there's not a motion coming forward tonight related to that, so that'll be brought forward the next council meeting.
Okay, so there's no decisions in this for
There's
council,
some information there from the plug.
because I'm in a conflict on that. That's
Oh,
why I
yeah,
didn't
right.
go to the meeting. So, but I don't know if there's any issue with me. Maybe I won't. I'll declare my conflict on these, on adopting those minutes. And I'll hand the chair over to Counselor Tapper to deal with that.
Okay, the minutes are presented before you. Any questions, comments? Counselor.
Thank you, Counselor Tapper. I wasn't able to attend this meeting. My heat pump was having a hissy fit that night. But I just
We're going to discuss that.
I just wanted to ask the question, because I would have done it if I was in the meeting. When I've been approached by residents about this, and I've been asked, Mount Pearl turned this thing down, St. John's turned this thing down. I know our director went to the appeal and said, listen, the town of Torbay has every right to say where that tower should go in our community. I'm just looking for some further understanding around that, because there's been a conversation about the federal government being able to come in and say, no, we're putting it where we want. Is there some further clarification for the public that I can just ask to speak to that? Because I'm getting calls about it. I'm not an expert in this area, and I think it might be beneficial for the public conversation if we ask the director maybe to provide some clarification on that. Would that be okay to ask for?
Well, like I mentioned, there is some information as well in the flood committee minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you want to hold off till then or whatever's more appropriate.
Yeah,
I'll leave it up to Julia.
Yeah, I guess I'm just asking like the specific question. People are saying to me, Mount Pearl's taking decision, St. John's taking decision. How come Torbay's being told the feds are going to decide? And I don't know the answer, so I was just asking for that to see if we could get a response to that. That's all. And it could be here, it could be in Flood, however you want to address it.
Go ahead.
So ultimately, the placement of telecommunication towers does fall under, it's not called Industry Canada anymore, but it's under the Telecommunications Act, so that's federal jurisdiction. But in accordance with guidelines that are in effect put in place by, it's now called ISED, like that's the abbreviation, there has to be meaningful public participation, and when this was discussed at the committee the whole, and also when it was discussed at the last Planning, Land Use and Development Committee meeting, there was some questions that the residents had asked were, since the appeal hearing, were actually answered by Bell, but there was one remaining question that hadn't been answered, so I had gone back as per request of the planning committee to get that question answered also. So once we have at least an answer to those questions, it'll come back to Planning, Land Use and Development Committee, and then it'll be discussed in the public chamber. So it is correct that it falls under federal jurisdiction. Ultimate jurisdiction is the federal government. Bell Canada does have kind of a bit of a blanket authority, I guess, on the matter by Industry Canada. But the consultation is to be meaningful, and that's what Planning Land Use is right now trying to actually get all the questions that the residents asked answered. So
Perfect.
we'll come back.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you.
That'll come up again in the flood minutes.
Yeah, thanks. I was just thinking where Craig is out, but if that's, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
I'll move.
Or,
It's okay.
do we have a seconder? Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we can get them back out.
Alrighty, thank you. All right, moving on. Planning, Land Use Development. Counselor Tapper. Counselor Pollard. Either one of you.
Which one was?
Carry on.
He's
Since
back.
you're the chair, you do it.
He's back, he's back.
There's a small report here. The first one is a Crown Land referral, number 160903. It's deal with a piece of property on Quigley's Lane. This was here previously, which we had approved. It's a slight change to the boundaries and that for the person to be able to go ahead
Should
with
we-
their development.
Yeah,
Should we
before-
do the conflict
Sorry.
and let?
If you're in a conflict, just go on.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You know you are, you're right next door to it. Continue.
So it's for the purpose of developing a residential subdivision, and it's a crown land acquisition, like I said, has been on the table before, with a slight change with the boundary, which required a new application. So, motion to approve the Crown Lands application CL 2023-002, Crown Land referral number 160903, north of 126 Quigley's Lane, to advise that a subdivision development application shall be submitted to the town of Torbay for detailed review, commentary, and approvals, and that the development is subject to meeting the town's standard requirements for residential subdivision development in that unserviced area, including provision of open space and recreation opportunities, access and servicing requirements shall meet provincial requirements. So moved.
Second.
Seconded, questions?
the only question I have, and I already know the answer, but I'm gonna ask it anyway, is it has to meet all the stormwater management runoff considerations that we have under our regulations. So I just wanna make sure that, you know, from an environmental perspective, I'm all about developing and growing, but, you know, I wanna make sure that we're doing it in a sustainable way and we don't have any further concerns about stormwater management. I mean, it's cost us enough money, so just wanna make sure that's looked after.
Right, and that would be all part of the
That will be
development
a part of the
application.
subdivision
Yeah.
application. This is just the acquisition of the Crown Land.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the next is just the motion for council.
Permit listings. Permit listings. Okay.
Motion to accept permit listings for week ending March 30th, 2023 as tabled, so moved.
Second.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
I'd like to take a run down through the club meetings for a second in relation, and your worship, you can step out again, because I'm gonna speak about the cell tower, but, I don't know if you necessarily have to, you can sit and listen. You can read whatever's there anyway, so,
If there's no
and
decisions,
there's no motion or anything.
there's no decisions to be made, I'm allowed to hear information.
Yeah, so I guess further to the conversation earlier around the cell tower, I as well have had many conversations on this with residents. There was a number of residents who submitted letters to the proponent, and as well, there was a petition signed by, some, I don't know, let's say 30-plus residents in the area
80.
relating to it, 80, okay, so I was off by 50, but that's nothing. So the magnitude is there. I've done a lot of reading, and we had a lot of discussions with the proponent as well. And as Director Schwartz just indicated, the final decision rests with ISED, which is the federal government itself. Bell follows all the ISED regulations and has to go through them for their application process for their safety protocols, which was one of the issues that was on a petition for safety. So as long as they follow Safety 66, and they won't get approval from ISED unless they go by that, then that's not an issue. And one of the other issues that was mentioned was the property value, and that is specifically written in the ISED regulations that is not to be held as a consideration for any decision around the cell tower. There is a requirement for us to do the public consultations. Usually they look for a protocol or a policy around cell towers, which we do not have. I think St. John's may have had, and Mount Pearl may have had previously, so it probably made them easier to go through this process. But there is a default public process to go through, which they went through. The responses that were sent were, in my mind anyway, or in the committee's mind, less than favorable when they did. So we went back and asked the proponent to provide better responses, not just is not relevant, just explain why and what's exactly happening to the questions, which were answered. So at the end of it all, there was still, I think, the line of sight and the position of the cell tower was still up for conversation. So we had asked Director Schwartz to go back and confer with ISED and all the information we had, and to find out what their recommendation be moving forward. If we come to an impasse, we can't vote to put it there. All we can say is concur or not concur. and the proponent can still decide where they want to go with it. If, for instance, we don't concur, my understanding is that we would have to go through some type of dispute resolution process, and at the end of the day, the ISED would decide whether or not it made sense or not for that tower to go where Bell did it based on all the information that they would have. So we're just going back to them to see what actually their commentary is on it in relation to where we are so far. Hopefully it'll be resolved. We won't have to go much further with it at all, but we'll see. So hope that clarifies for anything else. Did I say anything incorrectly?
Great. Well done.
Other than that, there's the Great Pond updates there from WSP, and there will be a, there's not much detail there, it's just point form. There will be more detail at a presentation the 10th of April, I think, at the Committee of the Whole, for them to come back and show where they are with the Great Pond studies and the timelines and where that falls out at the end of the day. So ends my report, Your Worship.
All right, thank you very much.
Can I ask just one question on that? Last question I have on the bell tower. Have we engaged the Member of Parliament to have a discussion if this is a federal issue? Have we had any correspondence or communication with our local MP about that?
Not to my knowledge, and I don't know that they will get involved anyway, but certainly, you know, we take it under.
Yeah,
Thought process anyway.
just a question where it is a federal issue. I don't know if it would be helpful or not either, but I think reaching out to Ms. Thompson and having a conversation and, you know, sharing the residents' concerns might be, nothing lost if we don't, you know, if we try,
Yep.
right? So just a thought.
I just got one quick question as well. Do we have any kind of timeline? When is this going to be dealt with, or is this just going to be in limbo for a while, or?
Actually, had the process been done properly by, I guess, all parties at the beginning, we probably would have been through this by now. There are deadlines. The ISED lays out certain regulations around the 120 days for the consultation process, then 14 days for response back and forth, and then some type of finalization. Don't necessarily quote me on those, but there are, all I'm saying is that there are certainly timelines associated with it. The fact that we ended up in a situation with discussions and an appeal process, and that I can't say, but I think we're pretty well to the point now we're going to make a decision on soon anyway. The chip's already made, so it'll come back to council for concurrence or non-concurrence anyway, and then we'll see where that goes from there.
So I guess the other thing is that because of Mount Pearl and St. John's having protocols in place, you know, needless to say, it's time for us to get something in place to be able to deal with any future kind of situations like this, so we haven't got to go down this path, and we have maybe some kind of teeth as well. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, hindsight is 20/20, yeah, I agree. I mean, yes, it'd be nice to have policies about where this is, but that's a bigger effort than just saying, let's have a policy for it. I mean, we got to consider, we're going through a town plan now, so maybe during town plan, we'll try to identify places that may be acceptable for cell towers and that type of thing as well, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Did it? Thank you, sir. All right, so the next agenda item is admin and HR. Neither one of the committee members are here. I did get an email from them earlier asking to also defer the memo here about professional development, the motions. So that first part about the motions, to want to defer that. I think we might as well just defer the whole section, to be honest.
Well, Your Worship, there's not much, I mean, it's mostly informational at this point in time.
Right.
The,
Did you want to go over as the alternate?
I don't want to read all the information that's there, sorry, I certainly will.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody can certainly peruse it if they haven't already. It's the minutes and the background, I guess, refer to the History House staffing and the what was approved in the budget and where we stand in that process right now.
Okay.
And so I think that was put there to respond to questions from Councilor Rapley in particular. I don't necessarily think the answer to those questions, but the information is there, and I'll leave it at that until we get a chance to question the HR.
Okay, so So we'll do a motion to defer the motion section. Can someone do that for me?
So moved.
There's, yeah, sorry, yeah. Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you.
Mayor, can I make one comment?
Mm.
And understand committee members aren't here, but to Councillor Pollard's point, I do appreciate the information that is provided. However, this is not the information that I've been asking for at pretty much each meeting for the last, well, since February. I would note, however, that there was an email that I had sent asking the questions that I wanted answered on February 2nd, 2023 to the CAO.
Mm.
And these are the questions that I've been asking for to be provided in the chamber. And I really would appreciate getting some more detailed information for the public, for the transparency and accountability around that.
Mm.
So if I could just point to that email and ask that committee visit those questions, the committee members, all of council are copied on that, and CAOs who was sent to.
Okay.
And there's very specific questions asked there that we still have yet to see in the package. And I'd really like to get the information that I'm asking for brought forward, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Kine. Okay, thank you. Corporate Services. Counselor Tapper.
Thank you. Our committee did meet last week, and the report, we'll go through it first. Just to read some of it into the record. Number one, payroll, regular payroll for 56 employees for the 2-week period ended March 24th. 2023 totaled $122,418.67. Accounts payable for the 2-week period ended March 24, 2023, invoices in the amount of $290,806.68 were processed. So we do have some invoices for council's approval. There are 13 operating invoices totaling $166,090.21. So we'll just go through them. Invoice 62499, A. Harvey and Company, $30,968.30. Invoice 2014098848, Cody Construction Limited, $11,500. Invoice 101010705, Harvey and Company Limited, $10,320.20. Invoice March the 10th, 2023, NL Power, $17,726.83. Invoice 1512547, Narrow NARL Marketing LP, $7,573.46. Invoice 151253117A, Narrow NARL Marketing LP, $6,460.80. Invoice 3094728A, Narrow Marketing NARL LP, $5,293.21. Invoice 2023 Budget, Provincial Library Board, $24,952.12. Invoice 910276998, Stuart McKelvey, $20,079. Invoice 901284424, Stuart McKelvey, $8,949.31. Invoice 64273, Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, $8,844.65. Invoice 64271, Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, $5,014.69. Invoice 263840, Wares Construction Limited, $8,387.64. So moved for payment.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any comments?
I have one question,
Go ahead.
and maybe Morgan, I mean, the quarry appeal amount, is that the last one, do you know? Is that up to date? That covered the period of time that was, like, up to the last appeal hearing? You know?
I'll just look that up for you there now.
That's not, if you can't find a right away, nor is not important, I'm just curious when I saw the big $20,000 right off the bat before we even kind of start the year is kind of saying, boys, hopefully we're at the end of this.
That's time up to March 14th.
Pretty close.
Any other questions?
If I could. Can I ask that we go back and have a look at the amounts that has been spent on the quarry appeal and just provide it in the package? I think the cumulative expense there would be nice to have in the package for the public's awareness. The other question, I'm not sure about the work that we had done around Spray Lane turnaround. Is it possible to get an update for council on that, circulated through us?
Yeah, but it won't go in the package.
No, not in the package.
Okay.
I have no problem, approving the invoice, the work is done. But just as a council member, to get an update on what's gone on there,
Okay.
I'm not quite sure about it, so just, if we can get a email to council, it'd be great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I got a question. And it's kind of comes to me all the time. I don't understand how come we gotta read all them invoices out. How come you couldn't just say the following 13 invoices for approval total, whatever, so moved? And then if anybody got any questions about any of them, ask them, and then approve them, or approve them in one motion anyway. Don't, to read in the record, just, if we had 50 there, I'm just thinking about, it's a waste of time.
I asked the same question when I got this job,
Anyway.
but was
just a
told, was told.
I know, just a comment, because,
There was a comment on that saying that because I remember asking the same question, because I've never done it that way in my life until I
Oh.
came here, and was told that they had to be read in record.
I asked the,
Read in the
last
record.
time I met with municipal affairs, I asked, could we pass our budget in one motion, and they told me yes, so. Anyway, all right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Okay, there are two capital invoices totaling $681,000.
Councillor Tapper, before we move on those, one of those is for canoe project, is it a loader?
It's the Harving Company, got nothing to do with canoe.
Canoe is in the motion, though.
It was sourced through Canoe, and the local dealer is Harvey Company.
Yeah, which means Mayor and I are in a conflict. So we may have to defer that motion. Under the Incorporations Act, Mayor and I are in a conflict on that. We don't have quorum if we do.
I think I got it, we're gonna have to ask our own legal about that, because I don't necessarily,
It's the same legal company.
I know, but I mean, it depends on how you ask the question, what the answer you get. So,
We don't have quorum for that motion, and I can't vote on it. We've been advised by the legal team that under the Incorporations Act as board members with Municipalities of Newfoundland and Labrador, we have a conflict when it comes in to Canoe, because Canoe, M&L gets kickback from a certain percentage of those sales.
all right, let's do,
So we have a financial interest.
we're gonna have, well, so we're gonna have to skip it.
Yeah.
Hopefully Deputy Mayor might show up in the next 10 or 15 minutes. She told me she was gonna be late, and if she is, then you guys can do it. Otherwise, I guess that we'll have to, for that particular motion.
Do the claim number 3, though. Do the
Yeah, we could do with claim number
construction.
3.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can do
yeah.
that.
Okay, invoice claim number 3, Platinum Construction Company Limited, $192,090.87. So moved for payment.
Second
Okay, questions?
it. Grab the Tony.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay.
Okay, there's a couple of motions here. Motion number 1, 2023 JCB.
The JCB backhoe was also
Part of
sourced
Canoe.
through Canoe.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So that's deferred.
So we're gonna get a piece of equipment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, Brian.
So much for having all the connections.
This is wonderful savings we get.
It's great work.
This is dandy savings that we get, but get there eventually.
Okay, motion number 2, resident Peak Sharks sponsorship. A Town of Torbay resident of the Peak Sharks cheerleading team will be traveling to Orlando, Florida to compete in the World Cheerleading Championships from April the 18th to the 25th, 2023. She has requested council's consideration for sponsorship to assist with the cost of travel and accommodations to attend the event. In accordance with the town's donation policy, the committee recommends a donation of $200 towards the cost of traveling to the World Cheerleading Championships. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Wait, no, Ward, wake up over
You jumped in once, I just thought you were gonna do it
there. I
again.
and I did it bad that time.
Opposed? Carried.
Sorry, Councilor Rouse.
Sure, yes, I'm sure you're right. Yeah.
So there's the usual background documents and minutes for that are listed there as well, if there's any questions.
Okay.
Sorry, back to that motion, that person is a, I voted on already, that person is a member of town resident, right?
Resident, yeah.
I went through the notes, I didn't see a name first or last,
The very,
anywhere.
well, yeah, very start of it says Town of Torby, Town of Torp.
Yes,
Yeah,
resident,
resident.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
didn't see the resident's name anywhere.
Well, whoever you are,
Anyway,
congratulations.
yes, that's right.
Do
All
we-
right.
Just a question on the DARE donation. Where are we on that?
I am in the process of reaching out to DARE to look at what their budget is for here in Torbay, and then we'll report back to committee. Committee will make a decision based on my conversation with DARE.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
Okay.
Any further update on the town's, no, I'll leave that committee for you to carry on. Never mind. We get it.
All right then. Thank you, sir. Economic Development and Tourism. Counselor Appleby.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so we met on March 23rd, myself and Councillor Manning and our Economic Development Tourism Officer, Dan Lawrence. We chatted about the Torbay Business Awards. To that point, we had 7 nominations in the 6 categories. The deadline has passed now. We talked about an additional staff resource for the Economic Development Tourism part of our staff allocation. We chatted about the Regional Wayfinding Signs Project, so the information is there on that. And the expression of interest for the building next door. We understood at the meeting that there weren't any expressions of interest that were provided at the time. So we had a conversation about asking that the corporate services conduct an analysis around, you know, what options we have for that building. And the thought around that was, you know, it's easy to say we could do this, we could do that, we could do something else, but it's an asset of the town. So, you know, if we look at it and we are going to put somebody in there, where do we get potential gains if we rent it? At what level, you know, could we get a return on that if we put somebody in there? If we were to sell it, what would that look like? You know, would we have any gains in that space? Just wanted to get an idea of what kind of options are available. I mean, at the end of the day, for somebody to come to us with an expression of interest for that space, they gotta have a business plan ready, they gotta have funding in place, they gotta be able to make a commitment to the town to be able to stay there once the renovation is done. And, you know, to do that, like, someone really has to be ready to come in, ready to go to invest, and not everybody's in that position. So, and we understand that, and listen, we're still open for business. If anybody's interested, we'd happy to hear from them. But as the time has, you know, really come to an end now, and the bank is getting ready to move out, I think it's better to look at other options, and council can have an informed decision and see what risk and reward and opportunities are there. So if we could ask maybe that the committee have a look at that for consideration, do some analysis, and then, you know, come back to council with that, then it gives us a better guidance of where to from here. I think that's probably the best thing that we can do.
Yeah. And to that point,
Yeah,
I would suspect, based on what I've seen in the past, no matter how much communication goes out about something, probably half the town don't even know that bank is closing. And when it's closed, then they'll realize that it's closed, or even people that were wanting to make expression of interest. So,
yeah, and I think, you know, the thing is, I mean, you know, if we look at what happened with the post office building, you know, the post office building was sold, now it's being renovated, we've got amazing new business coming into the town, And who knows, maybe it's, part of our next steps for this part of the community and the town center and the development, hopefully that will come around that. There could be someone who's interested to invest the money, engage, get the right people in and have another amazing business in the community. So, and the question is, it's an asset. However, we've had it for some years. What's it gonna take to keep it up? Is it gonna depreciate? What is it looking like for us from liability or an opportunity? That's really the belly wheel of our corporate services department, and we've got great expertise in that area. So we just felt it was best to look at all the options that are available, then have a conversation about where to from here. I think that's the best way to go. And then if someone says, well, why did you or didn't you put the library, or why didn't you or did you do something, then we can say, look, we've conducted a study, we've done our homework around it, and what makes the best sense with the information we have in the interests of the residents and the town looks like this, and then we can take it from there. So that's where we landed on that one.
Can I just, sorry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just ask a question to your point about residents not knowing? Once they're out, is it our plan to engage a real estate agent? Because as soon as the for sale sign goes on it, then everybody's going to know, whether they live in Torbay or not, So I think that's the important aspect of it. We could put a sign on it ourselves if you like, but at least, have something out front. We're right on Torbay Road, it's great. But I think that'll raise some eyebrows.
And Councillor Tapper, that's a really good point. And that's part of what this analysis is about. If we're going to rent or lease it, are we going to sell it? Council has to take a decision, a motion one way or the other on that. But I think, at that point, for us to decide if we're going to sell it, if we're going to lease it, or if we're going to do whatever with it, at least we've got the analysis there. So, I'm very sure that Norm can look at that and go, if you sold it with, potential sales revenues, what that would look like. But then you lose whatever other opportunity you have out of it. If you lease it, it looks like this, your risk profile would be. If you put a nonprofit group in there, like the library, as was suggested in previous conversations, and I'm just pulling that one out of the air, then how do you know if we put the library in there or the Lions in there or some other group, and what does that look like? So maybe really a SWOT analysis on some of those options, what that might look like, and give us the information. Because you're right, when a sign goes on the building, I think for people coming back and forth, eyebrows will be raised. And because we put a for sale sign on, it doesn't mean we have to sell it, but I think we need to have good information to make a decision on our best next step for the town and residents.
Maybe, Norm, we could have that as a standing item on our committee. Just
Yeah.
because the sooner it's done, the better.
One
obviously.
of my colleagues actually works with Martech Morgan Finch,
Mhm.
so I can reach out to them for like rentals per square footage and stuff like that, and
Good, yeah.
try to get something together, and building repair costs per square foot.
Yeah. Well, we got a real estate guy on our committee as well, so.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Norm. All right, so back to the report. Okay, the Killick Coast Agriculture Advisory Committee. There's a full-day workshop happening on April 16th in Flat Rock. So the theme is backyard and community gardening. If anybody's interested, check that out. Under tourism, we just touched on the Flower of the Year campaign that is ongoing. The Tulip Festival, we had a chat about that, and the tourism marketing opportunities. And in 2023, the NL Visitor Guide, it's going to showcase Torbay's ad on page 369. So on that, if there's any questions, let me know, and otherwise, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
To your point, I got an email today from the executive director of the agriculture group, and it turns out they just got themselves some funding to do digital food hub.
Excellent.
So hopefully that'll help them get that site up and running, and that was around some of our conversation that we had when we had them at our Killick Coast Mayor's meeting. So
Yeah.
it's good, all good stuff.
Yeah, just the last point on that, Mayor, with all of the inflation and all the issues that are happening, growing your own vegetables in your backyard is not for everybody or in a community garden, but there are people who are doing it. They are sharing information. And, if you can grow it and you're able to, to benefit from it, is over 90% of our food is brought in from outside sources, you know? So any work in this area is a good thing. And I just think it's positive to see the work that they're doing, trying to create awareness and education around that, absolutely.
Well, if I had to rely on what I could grow to eat, I'd be in some hard trouble. I spent $1,000 putting in all these planters and everything, and I got enough to make 2 bottles of beans. A farmer I am not. All right, thank you very much. History, Heritage, Culture, and Arts. Councillor Tepper.
Unfortunately, we couldn't meet this week because the staff had, including Noah, had the course there on Monday morning. We normally meet 9 o'clock on the off Monday.
Okay.
But he did send along his report, give some detail as to the visitation, the volunteer hours that people are putting in, which is great. Museum services and operations, the advisory committee meeting is tomorrow evening. The programs and events included in the April-May program guide for everybody's take a look. March educational programs are complete, 22 classes, and notice received from Young Canada Works that we were approved for a collections management assistant summer student position, which is great as well. Cultural services and program, Recreation and History House continue to refine the summer festival schedule. And a final schedule will be April 28th released. Education program is still ongoing. Lots and lots of classes going over to the History House, and they totally enjoy being there. And there's as usual, there's a list of grants, the successful, unsuccessful, and pending. So if there's any questions, that's the report.
It's good. April is Dinosaur Month.
Yeah.
So if your kids are interested in dinosaurs, drop on over to the History House, check it out. I don't know that we're gonna have any dinosaurs, but
But you know what,
You
that's
never know.
perfect, that's, of everything in that report, that caught my attention real quick. And I know of somebody who has a daughter who's autistic, who loves dinosaurs, like this would be really something that would catch their attention. I'm wondering if we can request a social media tweet or something along that line with a dinosaur, that kind of a thing that we share and talk about. It's Dinosaur Month at History House, because you never know where that might go, and somebody may, take an interest and come down to Torbay, have dinner down here, whatever. So I think that's really cool. I think
I'd be
it'd
shocked if no one ever already had something done on for that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure he
They'll
does.
have it on the page anyway.
Yeah, I think
Facebook.
that's great.
All right, perfect, thank you. Infrastructure and Public Works, Councillor Appleby.
Councillor Pollard.
Councillor Pollard.
Thank
Your
you,
Worship.
though.
How many, don't matter.
How many days did you miss?
Tony was gone. Tony was gone for like 6 months. I was not even at council.
Got an accent and everything.
Gone and forgotten. Okay, that's pretty good, yeah. Gone and forgotten. Thank you. My. Anyway, we met on Wednesday morning at 8:15. It's pretty much the same information as per usual. Obviously, the winter is a time when we're focusing on trying to move all that waste stuff out there and keep the roads in some type of shape. But the flow meter project, as of this week, or as of just the day or day before, the final meter came in. So we're going to be getting that put in place, and we will be able to get that commissioned then for early spring. So then our system will be fully monitorable at that point in time. Trail work obviously is still going to wait until the spring till we get things moving. The only question is how we push the one through from the blockage that we spoke about and the residents' resistance to that. So we're trying to work with the Minister of Crown Lands, and we still know at the end of the year we might have to just say we're going ahead with it anyway, and that Chip's already made, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The safety lights for the fire department crosswalk, the go-ahead has been given to Wood to go ahead and design the tender. Retainer wall up and beam replaced. The Progressive has been given the go-ahead and get that ready to go with tender. Salt storage shed project is still in Brian's hands to come back with requirements based on the budget that we approved this year. Multi-year capital works road project, just waiting the Staff did have a meeting with the Wares Construction, and they're ready to go just as soon as the snow clears, and they'll probably be tearing up roads before all the snow is actually gone, and then wait until sometime late May, I suppose, before the asphalt plant's actually open. Open space and trails, once again, this time of year, but they'll be starting once we clear all the snow out of the way and get the project taken care of. Tender has been awarded for that. Stormwater mitigation, this is a little slower than we had anticipated. We're gonna try to push the consultant to get the documents moving. So hopefully that'll be coming back to the table fairly soon as well. The generator project is sort of in limbo overall until we find out where all the other projects fall in terms of funding, and see if there's any excess funding that we can transfer over, because the generator project did come in over budget or over, anticipations anyway. So once we get all the other projects closed out, we'll know if there's any funding that we can transfer over to that and make a decision around how we proceed. The last one refers to the water and wastewater projects, and I'll defer any discussions on that until we have a meeting with WSP on the 10th of April, and they'll concentrate there on the rate pond solutions and where we stand and timelines, things of that nature. So ends my report.
Alright.
Sorry, it doesn't end my report. Speed calming, we're gonna be doing the speed calming. Brian's working with transportation infrastructure to get the digital speed signs put in place, again, on Pauline Line. The Tyndale Road water pressure issue is still under review, and we're trying to figure out what the standards are in terms of what minimum acceptable pressures are really best practice or standards across most systems, and see how we move on from there. There's a list there to tracking and standing items for IPW, the War Memorial Sidewalk project and trail linkage. Trail linkage, as we know, that's a new project. The other two are really finishing off the projects that are already started and just doing the final touches on. Hidden driveway sign on any mill line. Brian has recent conversations with TI and them. They are looking into it. The newest one that came up was this wind phone idea. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at the emails around that, as it was forwarded, I think, by Deputy Mayor. We went through it, and I think from a transportation infrastructure perspective, we can decide where it goes and how to put it there, but I think it's the need and the utilization of it and potential impacts of it and all considerations around it are more, for lack of a better word, I'll say softer than the hard issues, and I think they should be better directed to another department, so we probably throw that back to human resources and maybe that and economic development, where somebody can look at that in terms of doing some research around that. But Brian will have discussions with Don on that to see where that falls out at the end of the day.
Okay.
Other than that, there's a few more small items there, but they're for the reading anyway. So ends my report.
All right, thank you, sir. Righty then, any questions? No, all good. Recreation, Community Services, Councilor Goss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We met back on March 29th, 3:30 p.m. Just a few highlights there. Again, it's there for everybody's reading. Just to note, the program guide for April and May is now available. Should be noted that this edition does not include all Recreation Department programs and events. They have already been, those that have already been at registration or already started are not included. Just some stats. We've had 598 participants use the Common for the programs and events the last 2 weeks, and that does not include any points of contact, using the center for community groups, rental groups, or birthday parties. So we're getting great usage from our facilities. Great to see. We're dealing with some things on exempt rental fees. The committee discussed that groups have facility bookings without paying rental fees. These are a total of about 23 hours per week, free between Torbay Common and Upper Three Corners Pond. This reflects about $828 a week. So as a committee, we're reviewing that and going to come back with something on that as well. Solomon Goss's birthday festival. Director requested guidance from committee on a decision on free rental for the use of this event, and if staff program will be provided for that event. There was some discussion as to whether or not the town this is a town event, but the director informed the committee that it is a Torbay folk art event. Recreation Department is supporting through facility booking only. So we've gone to the CAO for guidance on this. Volunteer Week runs April 16th to the 22nd of 2023. And the theme is Volunteering Weaves Us Together. The department would like to thank all community groups and volunteers that play a vital role in keeping Torbay a healthy and strong community. Finally, we spoke about the Torbay 50th financial breakdown. The director also provided some additional information on staffing wages that were incurred to the breakdown provided, and we informed the committee that the GL was used for the Torbay 50. There's not one that is underneath the Recreation Department budget. So again, we've asked for some background on that and just see exactly where everything falls after the 50th anniversary. Our next meeting is on April 11th, and unless anybody else has any questions, so ends my report.
Thank you.
Just,
Go ahead.
yeah, it's great to see the exempt rental fees. I always like to know utilization, because when we talk about the value of a facility, it's always really hard to quantify what the non-monetary value is or non-monetary use. At least this gives us some idea in terms of, how many uses we're having that really have that $0 value associated with them, but are a necessity, and they're covered by the general tax base, I guess, really overall. And I think the more of those being identified, the better we'll be able to actually do a return on our investment type thing for the community center, and speak to more of its cost recovery in that respect.
Because I know you already worked it out west of the, it's kind of like, what, $48,000?
Yeah,
something like that.
$48,000.
Yeah, it's fairly substantial.
Is there a, I had the word, like a matrix, something that you're checking against? Word is not coming to me. When you're doing an assessment of an RFP, you're checking against a checklist of, does it meet this criteria? What I'm wondering, for the user groups who are using it at a no-cost situation, what is that criteria that allows for that?
That was laid out in the beginning, was groups that were availing of that in our existing facility before we built the common.
Right, but I think a review of that criteria is what I'm asking for, because if you're a nonprofit and you're renting that facility to offer programming or whatever you're doing, there needs to be some criteria of why you get it and why you don't. It has to be more than your grandfathered in. So I think that what I'm asking for is, like evaluation criteria of what that is that you have to meet to be able to qualify for that, because it's not fair to some user groups and other user groups, depending on how access is being provided. I do agree there's a social component, and that there are situations whereby organizations need a group or a space to come together and get started, and there needs to be consideration. But I think if we have a criteria for that evaluation in place, it might make it easier for when we're saying yes or no to somebody. So if we could, I don't know if you're doing a further analysis of that, Jen?
Yeah, that was something we discussed in committee, because I think it is needed for sure, because there's new groups that are coming up that have a similar age demographic to some of the groups that right now aren't paying rental fees, and that's something we're kind of trying to figure out how we move forward with. So I think we need I don't know if it's a policy or some kind of formula to figure out, like you said, who gets free rent and who doesn't. And we're also looking at, how many hours, is there a maximum number of hours per week we'd be able to do? Because we have a big demand for the community center, especially the gym. So another thing is looking at how many hours, if we can give free, is there a maximum number of hours we can, per week? So things like that go into it.
Excellent, thank you.
And one more thing I can add that we've talked about is prime use versus non-prime time. So making sure we're being most efficient of the groups that need the prime time versus the groups that may not need such, especially when it comes to the gym, especially.
Yeah. I've got one more question. Mayor had mentioned earlier about the AY closure in the province. And I know that we've had discussions before about the cadets possibly coming here, and I'm thinking as a youth group in the
I
community.
think that they're already talking to them.
Yeah, just wondering, like, is that conversation still ongoing? How is that going? Because I think you're right, like, the engagement of our youth is critical and important and the more ability that we have. So just looking for some information or an update on that, please.
Yeah, the cadets is still in the works and they're hoping to start in September. We're just working out what time of day, specifically on the weekends, because Sundays is prime time, so we're hoping they're going to be a little bit earlier and maybe just staff the building a little bit earlier, but it should hopefully have an update in the next couple of months on when they're going to start and what it'll look like.
Awesome.
And they are, just add that they are interested in volunteering, so their group that they'd have for cadets, that age group, they want them volunteering in the community as well.
Awesome, thank you.
All right?
Just off the top here a little bit, but still about rentals. Is the Anglican Hall coming back online, do you know?
It is.
It is back
It
online?
is. I was down there a little while ago for a dart tournament.
Okay, so just wanted to know, just in case,
Yeah.
you know, if they're looking for rentals or whatever.
And part of the Solomon Goss's birthday is happening down there.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Alrighty then, thank you very much. Liaison committees. Atlantic Mayor's Congress. I just received today or yesterday the minutes from our last meeting. I will forward them along to Ann to include in the next council package. And the next meeting of that group is June 6th, I think, 5th, somewhere around the first week of June in Amherst. Intergovernmental affairs. Let's see what I got wrote here. So I've been getting, and as I'm sure everybody else has, and I know that MHA Wall has as well, in particular last weekend, I got probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 emails and phone calls and text messages from people who were after blowing the tires off the car in that pothole on Parkstock Hill. So, as always, I request that they email me and then I forward it on to staff for follow-up, knowing that that road, and a lot of those people that contacted me weren't from Torbay. One of them was from Marystown, another one was from up Bonavista way somewhere, but they weren't aware that it was a provincial road. And when I explained to them that it was a provincial road, they thanked me and then they went to the province with their concern. So I also was talking to MHA Wall about it, and he was making inquiries with the department to get it fixed, and apparently they did do another patch job on it, but I think that's something that we're gonna have to go back to the department and ask them to do some kind of a proper repair there at some point. You know, when they're down here this summer, doing all their wonderful work of fixing the bridge and paving from Enemy Line up to Juniper Ridge, maybe they can do a cut in the road over there and put a proper fix in, maybe while they're at it. Wouldn't be a bad suggestion, Brian, that we can make to them. If you're already gonna be down here, why don't you fix that never-ending pothole that keeps coming back every year? It's like Groundhog Day.
I think there might be a little more issue here than just a pothole.
Probably a culvert or something underneath, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not only culvert, I mean, if you look on the right side going up there, like the sand is washed away. If you go off the road, like
Yeah.
20, 40, 50, 60 feet past that, you're going right down to your axle. So I think it's all the way coming down through there is the problem.
Yeah, yeah, there is an issue there for us, for sure. ISIP program. So the ISIP program, which is the Invest in Canada Infrastructure Program. Let's try to remember if it's a program or a fund, but whatever it is. So I got notification last week that our phase 2 of our water treatment has been submitted to the federal government for approval. Hopefully that's a good thing. Usually any of the projects that the province submits to the feds usually get approved, so it'd be nice if we can get that approval and then turn around, whatever the next funding program is gonna come after ISIP, then I guess we'll apply for phase 3 and see where that goes. So, anyway, that's a bit of good news. Hopefully we'll hear back from them sooner rather than later about if it's approved or not. I know that by March 31st, the province had to have all their approved application submitted to the federal government for subsequent approval. So my understanding is the only way that they get rejected at the federal government level is if they don't meet the requirements. And I would hope that the province wouldn't send up something that didn't meet the requirements. So, all right. La, 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 la. Jackburn Regional. Gentlemen, either one of you got any update?
Yeah, we had our AGM, what's today? Thursday passed. I got 2 sets of financial statements here at the table. One is the partnership financial statement, which is essentially just an allocation or a split share of the actual asset itself, the building. The financial statements here for the end of 2022 finished the year to the good, some $9,300, $23,000 before depreciation, so much better than it was last year when we actually had a small loss, $5,300, so it's starting to come around. So I'll table these and everyone can take a look and go from there. There's not much else to say on that.
All
The projected budget for the year was some $33,000, and we didn't lose, but we certainly didn't make as much in February because of all the closures because of snow. Funny enough, it's not, you get ice and you gotta close because of snow, and I said, yeah, that's a real catch-22 for Newfoundland. But March looks like a much better month. We haven't got the figures for March yet because of the timing of the end of the month meeting. So in the next few days, we should have that. So hopefully by next meeting, I'll have an update for March to know how much we regained. But good news is that we're still projecting there's going to be a positive outcome by the end of the year. Maybe $20,000 as opposed to $30,000. But like I said, if March is good, then it might be a little better. They did do up in a projection as to some potential capital expenditures that are coming up over the next couple of years, and they are substantial, so we're going to deal with that as a group, and the towns collectively as well, maybe. Some of the bigger ones are going to be the sewer system itself, that's has a limited life when it was put in there, and that's, I think I alluded to that a few meetings ago. Dehumidifiers, condensers, that type scenario, but we'll have more on that as we move through the whole life cycle capital cost replacement process for those assets. And that's it, Your Worship, for now.
All right, thank you. So those reports, you can forward them on to Ann, she'll include them, send them out to council.
Yep.
And put them in the next council package, Tony, is that what we're gonna do?
Sure. You can put them on the website for that matter.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay. Thank you. Where am I to? Northeast Avalon Joint Council, Deputy Mayor's not here. I don't think they met. They didn't meet, did they, Ralph? Okay, let's skip that one. RNC, I don't have any update there. Torbay Volunteer Fire Department, their minutes are probably in here somewhere.
No.
Oh, no report. There you go. Urban Municipalities Committee. So our Urban Municipalities Committee, or UMC, that we refer to it, we did meet this past weekend, Friday and Saturday, in Portrait Cove St. Phillips. Thank you to Portrait Cove St. Phillips for hosting us. And I will forward to Ann the minutes from our last meeting that was adopted there. But I'll just share with you some of the items that we talked about that were on the agenda. It was a really good 2 days. We had a great discussion about why municipalities need a business continuity plan. And to be honest, when Pat Curran was presenting to us, some members I guess weren't really sure what a business continuity plan means. They think of it in different aspects. One is, how do you have continuity with your businesses within your community and business retention, all that kind of stuff. But this business continuity is about how you plan to continue to conduct your town business in the instance of an emergency or a closure or when we had Snowmageddon and that, or a pandemic and that type of thing, how we have continuity of business of the town. And it was really interesting, and it's something that would go hand in hand with your emergency response plan. Because your emergency response plan probably should refer to your business continuity plan for certain things, depending on what the emergency is, of how you want to be able to continue to operate within the town. So that was really interesting discussion. We talked about the fact that our municipal operating grants in this new budget are gonna be increased by $6 million over 2 years. Norm, you already work out how much money extra we're gonna get? No? Oh, you're not on the ball like Dave Hiscock. He already had it figured out what Bonavista Vista was getting, extra 45,000, he said.
14,000.
What?
14,000.
14, is it? No, Dave said Bonavista Vista's getting an extra 45, so we should get more than them.
Yeah, but Bonavista gets a different formula. Bonavista gets more than us.
Oh, okay.
I looked at that and I was shocked, actually. I looked at it because I tried to do the calculation in my head. It's not a
significant amount of money.
We'll take it, but
Well,
it's not a huge increase.
no, it's not. And it's not over 1 year either, it's over 2 years. So it's gonna be 3 million the first year and 3 million the second year, spread over. There's 5 municipalities that don't receive municipal operating grant. It's the big five, call them, or big seven, or whatever they are. But, so out of the other 270 or 269 municipalities, we'll have to share out that extra $3 million next year. It won't go very far, I don't think, but it's nice to see some movement on that.
It's a good start. At least they moved it because
Yeah.
we've been trying to push for
It has
some
moved.
of that income tax money. So
Right.
the way they pushed to us through the operating grant.
So the MOGs haven't been increased since, I think, 2015 was the last time that they were increased, so that's 8 years. And everybody knows how much everything has gone up, so it's a good start. We'll call it that. We did a study tour of Marine Institute, and it's been a long time since I've been there. But if you ever get an opportunity to go there to see what they got, do it. They got 24 simulators there now. We had an opportunity to go on a ship bridge, and you're standing there, and it's like looking at right out over St. John's Harbor. It's so accurate and lifelike. And even though the floor was standing still, but the way the water was going like that, the boat wasn't moving. You could feel movement. But they did a couple of demonstrations for us, and it's really cool what they have going on there. And I think this message is more for young people, students. When they think about Marine Institute, they're thinking about going off in boats or whatever. But all this technology that's there needs to be maintained and updated and worked on too. So if you're into computers, and even somebody that's into gaming, they have things there for ROVs, and it's such an amazing place. We never even got the chance to look at everything. We were there for almost 2 hours, and so I thank them for that. That was good. And if you ever get an opportunity to go back there, I would do it. One other thing that we talked about that was a big deal, and it's not it hasn't been something that I think that we've been actively involved in over the last number of years, because we're probably not affected as much as some municipalities, and that's in doctor and physician recruitment. We're fortunate enough here that our doctor's office across the road seems to be stable in terms of having physicians, and there's so many inventive ways that some municipalities are going about trying to recruit doctors. Bonavista is giving them land to build houses on, so they and they're doing things that we never knew that we could do, but they're doing it. And I guess I asked a question about how does that jive with the Public Procurement Act and the disposal of municipal assets. If you're gonna give away a piece of land for $1 to somebody, easy. You just gotta get permission from the minister. So it don't matter what all these regulations say and all this procurement stuff and all everything. If you wanna do something and it makes sense and they're not gonna argue on it, you get a letter from the minister and you're good to go. Because municipalities are a creature of the province. So I found that was quite interesting. And I know that they're using other strategies like that in different municipalities across the province, trying to recruit doctors to come there. And one thing that we talked about, and I'm gonna bring this to probably recreation or economic development or whoever, somebody, to have a look at, and that is potentially having something someday on a weekend or whatever, recognition for people in our community that work in the healthcare sector, nurses, doctors, paramedics, whoever, and have something at the Common of Family Day to recognize them, because we're lucky that we got, we're living close to St. John's. I mean, I know we got lots of nurses and doctors and paramedics and those type people that work in the, and even the support workers that work at the health science and those things, that we have lots of them in our community, and even the surrounding communities, maybe they might wanna get together and do something and have a nice day, and just say thank you for doing the work you do, but thank you for living here and working here and supporting us. So that was something else that we talked about. And we also talked about our male allyship program that I was fortunate enough, myself and Mayor Breen in St. John's, to take part in the national training program that we did over the last 3 months. And when we actually had so much interest from Newfoundland and Labrador, FCM came down about a month ago, I guess now, and actually did a full day workshop with us at the boathouse down at Kitty Vitty, and it was fully funded by FCM. So we all got to go. There was I don't know how many of us were there, 10 or 11, and participate in that program. And it's really great, and there's going to be, MNL is going to be doing a lot of exciting things around that, and how we promote more diversity in the municipal sector, and this is all part of it. So it was really interesting and something that I really enjoyed doing. So it was good. Anyway, our next meeting is going to be at Symposium in Gander. It'll be the day before Symposium. And then our second in-person meeting is going to be in Bonavista in August. And that's going to be I'm sure that's going to be a great meeting. And I will share with you, I did make a change, and I had the support of the M&L board on how we do our meetings for the Urban Caucus. We used to have 4 meetings a year, you know, this Ralph, 4 separate meetings a year, plus we met at Symposium and we met at convention for an hour or something. But looking at the fiscal situation everybody's in and making the best use of everybody's time, and everybody's busy, we decided to go to just 2 of those in-person meetings a year that are hosted by a municipality, and move the other one to a day before Symposium and day before convention, so that you're making one travel trip, and it'll save the municipalities money that are attending, and it'll also save money for M&L too, so that you know, we're not traveling all over the place all the time. So anyway, and that was that, and it was really nice to be able to get together. I know that over the course of the last few years, couple of years with the pandemic, we did a lot of virtual meetings, and virtual meeting, man, just don't cut it when you got a bunch together like that and you want to have a good discussion, and a discussion breaks out. And you know, sometimes people criticize me for not following our agenda close enough at our council meetings, but when you get a group together like that and you get into a good discussion, I don't push it along just to keep some notes that somebody wrote down for me on a piece of paper. Keep that in order. If we're going to have a good discussion, we're going to have it. And if there's 5 things that we don't get to on the agenda, well, we'll add them to the next one. All right, any questions on any of that? Go ahead.
Mayor, number one, thank you for your kind words about the allyship program. That's a program that's funded under CAMWIL, which is under my national committee. And that's a really amazing piece of work that we're doing. And I'm really, really appreciative that you've participated in the national and the provincial training around that, and that you speak so kindly of it. So thank you for that. That's very appreciated. I was really into what you were saying about Marine Institute. And, you know, I was thinking about what role maybe the town might have in that. You know, you just think about how cool it is to go in and experience that. But, you know, I work with the Coast Guard now, and years ago, it was said to me, Trina should go do IT, and I went, never gonna happen. What did I graduate with? IT. And then my mother wanted me to go to Coast Guard, and I was like, I wanna be on a boat, and guess what? I work with Coast Guard. So I think the thing is, though, it's our perception, right? When I thought about going to work with DFO and Coast Guard, I didn't realize how cool it actually is to do the work. And when you think about something, you think, oh, well, that's me out charging into a storm, hanging out of a chopper. No, there's a whole lot of different things. Using ROVs, using drones, doing all kinds of cool stuff. Last week I was out on a burnt out vessel installing new technology that's a prototype under ISED. Very cool, right? However, wondering if there's something we could do. Maybe we can add to the economic development, or maybe it's something recreation can think about, or maybe we can work together across the departments on it. But wouldn't it be cool if maybe the town of Torbay put something out, work with the school, however we do it, and maybe we do tours. Maybe we get some of the youth in the community who might be interested. We've got a lot of people in this community who work in the oil and gas sector, offshore. Maybe if a person, especially someone who's into gaming, is going out and checking out these ROVs or those sorts of things, maybe there's a piece of that somewhere where we can engage with our youth, with the community, have, you know, a day of take them out, do a tour, and then come back and have a bite to eat after or something, get them together, get them thinking, do something. So just an idea, like listening to your report, this is what I was thinking about. You know, if it's that cool to do, wouldn't it be cool, another cool way to engage youth, get them involved, and maybe see the town in a different light as well. So I'll ask that maybe Jen, if you and Deanne can have a chat about that and just see what that looks like, where it fits best, and then how do we look at an idea like that.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a great idea. And just to your point about the in-person piece, you're right. You know, like having the flexibility and needing the flexibility to participate virtually is important. It absolutely is. But you can't beat being in person. You know, connections are made in those rooms, in those spaces that outlast those meetings, you know, and the conversations that you have outside of the session or during the drink that night where you guys are getting together. And, you know, when I was in Ajax for FCM, I had 3 people come to me talking about burnout. I had another person come to me talking about wondering if they're going to run again because they got family issues. You can't have those conversations over the internet the same way that you can have in the space when you're getting together and you're doing that stuff. And one of the things that came out of conversation that we had at one of the networking events in Ajax, there's been a conversation that we've been having for the last 3 years that I've been on that board about the Atlantic Caucus coming together and working in a stronger way because the Western Caucus do very well in that space. And I asked Craig Pollitt at the time, who was our then CEO, what's the deal here? And actually what came out of that was Craig Pollitt and Juanita, who was his counterpart in Nova Scotia, came together and they had a conversation about doing some work around fiscal framework and how do we lobby the federal government as an Atlantic region towards that. Yes, working with FCM, but the PTAs have actually come together. And on Paddy's Day, we had a meeting that came out of one of those discussions around that table when I asked Rob Nolan to have that conversation with Juanita at the table. And before we finished that meeting, they had that meeting set up for the following week in which they met on Paddy's Day. And I believe you were in the meeting when we talked about that and Rob gave the update. That came from sitting around that table at FCM and Ajax, having that conversation, connecting that dot. So when you talk about the impact of what we can do when we're working together in that space, not always feasible. I mean, you gotta be sensible about what you're doing, like your conversation about what you did with revamping the UMC agenda and how that was done. But I think there's good balance there and there's definitely good outcomes that can come from it. So I just want to hit on those few points
Right.
because
So,
I think it's really cool stuff coming out of your report.
so I can get you the contact information for that lady at the Marine Institute who does that, because I asked that specific question.
Yeah.
How can we engage with you? and they actually will come down to the schools and bring information and do, she's the student recruiter. Now, how they go, if we could go and pile a bunch of people on a bus and send them on a tour, that's something probably that they might be able to work out between them, particularly we're so close. And the other thing that I will say, the best, at least when you're having an in-person meeting, you can highlight and everybody sees when someone shows up late, because they were driving all over Portugal Cove, didn't know where they were going. So,
Nothing builds a relationship any better than that, doesn't it?
that's right, yeah. All right, so, thank you. I know that was a bit of a long update, but we don't meet that often, and when we do, and we got a really good agenda, I like to share it. And because it's gonna be after May before I'm gonna be able to circulate the minutes of what it was, the discussion that we had, so. All right, we got no notice of motion, new business. Councillor Eppley.
Thank you. Just wanted to bring to council and the public's attention that under the CAMWIL program, again, this is a Canadian Women in Local Leadership program that we have under the FCM committee that I chair. There are scholarships that are available. They're $1,000, and the deadline to apply is April 11th. I have emailed this to the principal over at Holy Trinity High. It's to support secondary school students who may be interested to apply. It's open to young girls, non-binary individuals enrolled in secondary school and CEGEP in Quebec who are contributing to their school's leadership team or student council. It's meant to reward and inspire students who take on challenges and to try to bring about change that benefits their peers or community. The second thing I wanted to talk about real quickly is I've also been meeting with Courtney Clark with Equal Voice, and I've also sent this to the school. And what we've been talking about is trying to find a way to get young people who may be interested in the municipal sector and politics, to get them together, have a conversation, looking at the grade 10 to 12 age group to see what's possible. One of the questions that was asked when I was on that national panel was, what are you doing in your community that's going to help increase women's participation? And I could answer in the province, and I could answer across the country, but I couldn't answer in Torbay. And that's where Courtney and I got together and start brainstorming and coming up with some cool ideas. So I just wanted to share that because I think it's great. We'll see where it goes, and I'll keep council apprised. But good stuff in both those spaces. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And I just got a thank you to the volunteers who came out again on Sunday and helped us cook breakfast. And, you know, it's always a lot of fun, and it's great that we've been able to keep that momentum from the Torbay 50 celebrations, and all the volunteers that we had come out, and the number of hours that they put in is immeasurable. But I really appreciate them coming out like that, and I love going there and working with them. Even though I only had probably 3 or 4 hours sleep, I was up and ready to go. It wasn't that late, was it, Ralph? And and thank you also to our staff who organize that stuff and help work and everything, and all the shit that you do every week. Oh, sorry. That you have to put up with, really, is what I was meant to say there. And congratulations to Team Young and Team Perry, who just participated in the Junior National Curling Championships. They did not win at all, but they did good. They showed they represented the province well and our town well, and that's all you can ask for. They went up there, they tried hard, they did their best. All right. Now, do you have any questions? I do. All right, come on. Could you add Mrs. Lacey to our list? Thank you. Do you want to come up? Do you want to go to the microphone so we can hear you? Yeah, but the people can't hear you. The people listening can't hear your question.
Oh, we're live streaming. More important. On the agenda, I noticed there was an item not mentioned. Corporate service reports, number 9, Northeast Eagles, under 9 hockey tournament sponsorship.
Okay. Yep.
They too, as well as number 10, are looking for a donation. Now, I like to think it was an oversight on Councillor Tepper's He
I think
You
that,
f-
that
I
one
think
might
you
have been-
forgot to mention it. It's on the agenda, and it was in plenty of time to be on the agenda.
Rationale is that
We dealt with that in our committee, and that team is neither hosting nor traveling to a tournament. It's just a local tournament down at DF Barnes, and the town's travel.
Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry, it is D.F. Barnes, sorry.
And the town's travel policy is you got to be hosting or traveling to a provincial, national, or regional championship. So that's why the U9 team didn't receive a donation.
But these are under-9 hockey players there are future hockey players. Are they not just as important as the cheerleading group? I know they're traveling, but this is their first time. All the, in the area, all the different,
if I may, I mean,
Council.
we've been through, we receive a lot of donation requests, but when we took it and looked at it, regardless of what age they are, they're just going to a local tournament here. Yes, it is a very good tournament for U9, but again, we didn't really see where the travel, any amount of travel money was needed just to travel from Torbay to DF Burns. That's the way we looked at it. And
Well,
again,
they
didn't
have-
fit it with their protocol.
they have to raise a lot of money, and I mean, all the parents are out trying to raise, for their, whatever they need, whatever you need for a hockey tournament.
Well, and that's the thing, we were never, again, we don't know what they need or kind of couldn't figure out what the expense would be just to travel from here to St. John's.
Well, I guess they need to buy all these hockey, I don't know a whole lot about hockey, jerseys,
That would have been given by the association.
I don't know, but I do know they're looking, but in my mind, it's your loss.
I think there
For
was
now.
2 other Northeast Avalon teams that we did sponsor. One was going to provincials and one was hosting.
Yep,
Is that-
that's
is that how
correct.
it was? Yeah, so,
There's a criteria that we use,
It just didn't,
yeah.
board is on our committee as well.
Yep.
We get several of these requests almost every meeting. Well, we've got a budget, we've got to stick to it. $200, not very much really, but that's not in, in order to get equal, donations.
Right. So that particular team didn't qualify this time. Maybe next year when they're going on there, if they go down with Flan, they'll qualify
Yeah.
that.
Who knows?
Is that it?
That's it, but I still feel that number 9, it should have been addressed that because of our policy,
Okay, all right.
You know,
Fair.
right?
fair
I
point.
mean, I'm not saying that Councillor Tapper left it off. It was an oversight, I'm sure, because he just wouldn't do that.
Because we didn't obviously give a donation, that's why it wasn't mentioned.
The discussion is actually indicated on page 138 of the minutes, under number 8.
Number 8.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thanks.
All right, thank you. All righty. All right, our next public council meeting is Monday, April 17th, 2023, right here in the council chambers in Town of Torbay Hall. And with that, could I entertain a motion to adjourn, please?
some,
Moved, seconded,
second,
all in favor? Aye, opposed, carried. Thanks, everybody.